The Supreme Court is currently deciding on a case involving abortion restrictions in the state of Texas. So many critics are wondering why it is that moderators in these presidential debates are not asking questions about reproductive rights, which is an interesting criticism. The Fox News town hall that just took place with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton was the first event that finally asked about their stance on reproductive rights. However, is this an interesting enough, or is this, are there enough differences between the two candidates to bring this up and start a debate? Okay. And the answer is no. All right. I think it's an interesting topic. I think it should be discussed to some level, but I think what the debate moderators want to focus on, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit, is the differences between the two candidates. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are exactly the same in terms of their voting records when it comes to reproductive rights. Exactly the same. There's only one minor difference between them, and I'll tell you what it is in just a second, but I want you guys to jump in first.
A small note here, maybe it's a large note. The organization running this article is the one run by the same guy who runs Hillary Clinton's super PAC. So there's some chance that they're putting this out there in the press so that Hillary Clinton can get asked in the debates and claim to be more for women's rights. So they might view that as an advantage for her. It doesn't really matter if their records are identical. She gets to say, I'm a woman, so you should support me. This is the same person and the same organization that has been accusing every one of her critics of being sexist. So it might be just another one of those dirty tricks to just talk about it. Now, on the other hand, abortion is a perfectly good thing that people should ask about. And there's nothing wrong with, like, we wouldn't do it in reverse. Like, if you ask about abortion in debate, oh my God, that's so sexist against Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. Right? No, this is good. They should ask. But Anna, I mean, she's done more research on the topic. My understanding was that their positions are incredibly similar.
Very. I mean, in terms of the way they voted, there are no differences. Bernie Sanders got a 100% score from NARAL. He has voted consistently on granting women reproductive rights. He has voted consistently on expanding stem cell research. He is very consistent when it comes to women's rights in general, but specifically reproductive rights. You will not find any differences in terms of the voting record between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. No differences.
I think that your read of why Media Matters might be talking about that could be true. I think that they would be shooting themselves in the foot, because I think look, even at tonight's town hall, his answer on reproductive rights was great. And I think many people already assume that Hillary is going to have the position they want on this sort of thing. They don't necessarily, if they don't know Bernie Sanders, they may not assume that, but he's going to educate you real quick about his record, because he has that record. But also, I would say, as much as obviously it's awesome that they've both voted that way, and it was great of you to find all that out, because I didn't know for sure. I sort of looked over all the issues together. Their voting in the past on these sorts of things is certainly an indication of how they would actually rule as presidents. But there's a lot of stuff that's developed in the past couple of years that in terms of how they would choose a Supreme Court justice based on Texas's recent legislation. I think that there are a number of things that people would like to know where their stand is.
Yeah.
I think it's more important that they ask about abortion in a general election debate, because then there's incredible differences, and people should know those differences. And I agree with you, John. I think accidentally it might have backfired on them. If you watch tonight's debate, the first time that it got asked, again, ironically, by Fox News, and Bernie Sanders was asked about late-term abortions. Hillary Clinton was asked the same question. Hillary Clinton, go back and watch the tape, hemmed and hawed on late-term abortion.
Yes.
Like a little bit of this, but kind of that, and yeah. And Bernie Sanders was like, I'm pro-choice. Okay,
yes.
Period. So it seemed like he had the more definitive and better answer. But again, to be fair to Hillary Clinton, her record's perfectly good.
Her record is perfectly good, and I want to give you that, very clear statement before I get into the minor differences between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. There's a reason why she hemmed and hawed, right? That wasn't a mistake. The way that Hillary Clinton frames issues involving reproductive rights is meant to draw in some moderate Republican voters, right? She purposely frames things from a centrist perspective, and part of it is because she wants to close that gap. She wants some compromise. She wants some agreement. But at the same time, she is not as progressive as Bernie Sanders is. For Bernie Sanders, he doesn't care so much about reaching out to Republicans and finding compromise on this issue. He believes that reproductive rights should be granted to women. He doesn't believe that there are any ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? So he doesn't hold back. He's like, yeah, I'm in favor of allowing women to choose. Whereas Hillary Clinton uses this phrase quite a bit when talking about abortion. She talks about how she wants to make sure it's safe, legal, and she emphasizes rare, right? So when it comes to working with Republicans on abortion, usually what she does is she tries to emphasize, all right, well, I'm going to try to make adoption a lot easier. I'm going to do everything I can to make abortion as rare as possible. I believe that abortion should be allowed. I believe it should be legal. I'm pro-choice. But let me find ways to come at this from a centrist perspective. And that's really the difference between the two of them.
You know, you're actually swinging me a little bit. I get why she does that.
Yeah.
And I'm not outraged by it or anything, but it is shaming a little bit for people who have had abortions. Like, we need it to be really rare. There's good reasons why it should be rare, but it also does put the onus on people who've had abortion, like, you shouldn't have done it. That's why the less that it happens, the better. Just a twinge of that.
No, I totally agree with you on that. And it's not anything to be angry at her about. I don't even necessarily think that's her intention, but it does come off that way.
I think that it's one of the reasons you haven't seen questions about it is, one, perhaps thinking that there wouldn't be much of a difference, although there's a lot of things that they are similar on. You still ask the questions. But that it could also be that the moderators, like a lot of people, feel like it's not something that should be talked about.
Yeah.
And that is, to some extent, by omission, that is shaming people who have done it, or shaming people who believe that it should be accessible.
And it's part of the conventional wisdom in Washington. For example, in conventional wisdom in Washington, they never ask Republicans, how are you going to pay for your wars? When Democrats say, hey, we'd like education for kids, they say, how are you going to pay for it? We'd like Social Security for senior citizens. How are you going to pay for it? Wars, no questions about that. But finally, on the issue of framing, again, Bernie Sanders had, I thought, the best line of the night tonight in there and on this question, when he said, isn't it funny that Republicans who claim that they're against big government are in favor of government so large they'd like to get into your private life, right? And make decisions for you on what you should do with your body. So on the one side, you've got framing saying that abortion should be rare, and in some cases, yes, some cases, no. On the other side, you have, I'm pro-choice, and if you're for abortions, you're for big government, and just admit it. I'll take that frame any day.